If you in there, nigga, I'm ghost.
What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you want to see the full live stream that this video is from, click the link in the description down below. But before we get into this, make sure you thumbs up and subscribe, and let's get it. There is a time where I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be a wrestler. Now, I'm not really gonna get too much deep into that, pause. But then I had to come to the realization where I can't be trying to do wrestling and acting and writing and directing, making music, and I can't be doing all this. I'm gonna have to let something go, so I let wrestling go. And then there's different reasons for that, but we're not really gonna talk about that. Basically, I started watching wrestling again because I stopped for a while. So I'm just gonna talk a little bit for, watch I say a little bit, and it's like 30 minutes, but of my journey when it came to wrestling. So I grew up in like I grew up on the tail end of a like transition era, or like the era before they're grown adults when like the internet's like becoming prevalent, and then the generation after me is like they maybe knew a little bit when they're a kid, life without the internet, and then the next generation's like we don't know anything without the internet. So not only was I on the tail end of like the generation where it's just like we see the growth of the internet throughout our childhood, and it's gonna tie back to wrestling, don't worry. But basically, you know, kind of like middle class, you can kind of consider, but it'll be like, I don't even know where we were growing up, where we would fall at, but I just know that, damn, this video I'm about to look at got hella dislikes. It's tough, but I just know that let's say we have 100 kids in my class or whatever, that like at least 50 of them, probably 80 of them are like, family is doing a lot better than mine at the time. So I didn't really have access to, I didn't really have constant access to internet until like in the 7th grade, 8th grade, beginning of 9th grade. That's like when I was really getting access to internet, like constantly. Like it'll be like, we'll have a computer, and I don't know if it was just the computer we had or if internet was just like that in general, but we had to, I'm not talking Ethernet, we had to plug in like a little thing. It looked like a hard drive to actually be like, oh, hey, this computer is going to get Wi-Fi connection. So you had to plug it into the computer for it to get Wi-Fi. And so that was like the family computer, and even with the plug in, it like sometimes we won't have the thing to plug in, or sometimes it just won't work. So like we'll have like 3 or 4 computers, but that was the only one that had any internet connection. And then sometimes a lot of times it wouldn't work. So it'd be like, oh, hey, like I was there during the MySpace era. I had my little MySpace account, but it'll be like, hey, I'm on MySpace for a couple days, and then I'm not on MySpace for a good amount of months. So within 7th grade and 8th grade, I was able to get slow connection, but at least a little bit of connection on a computer. And I also had an iPod Touch that I was able to like get apps and stuff like that. And then I eventually got smartphones in 9th grade, and then laptops, and then finally we're getting really access to internet. So, why am I talking about this? So basically, with wrestling as well as other things, people will be like, "You've never seen this? You've never played this? You've never ate at this restaurant?" Well, I guess you can't really. I mean, the restaurant, okay, whatever. But oh, you never heard this album? If we didn't buy the album and the album was in a house and then they burned it onto like whatever. See, y'all don't even know about that. Burned a CD. Y'all probably like, what is that? Nigga, Google it, bruh. But if the CD wasn't burned and then we had it on that actual computer and then we had like a little mix of songs and we put them on like different like CD players or this, that, the third. Like, bro, I was listening to CD players before there was like before MP3 players and then way before your iPhone can just listen to whatever song you wanted to. So like if something wasn't in a house, I didn't hear about it. I can't just be like, how do I find Google and how do I find this? And so I would only hear about, and I'm the youngest kid, I would only hear about music or shows or movies or this, that, and the third if we had it in the house or someone spoke about it. So there was no internet of, oh, hey, everyone's talking about this new movie. No. Like, besides maybe a few things like everyone heard, no. Even though they quote it wrong, no. I am your father. Besides like things like that, or say hello to my little friend. Like, there's rarely things that's like, it's overwhelmingly everyone is talking about it where you have to have it in your house. So with wrestling, growing up, I always hear, we'd watch, Raw and SmackDown every once in a while, and I always hear my brothers like mimicking The Rock. What's your name? Like, and then with his voice like, what's your name, Giovanni? It doesn't matter what your name is. And so, as well, hey, when I'm streaming right now, I just dropped a Dragon Ball Z reaction. This is basically the same thing that I was talking about with that. So you can kind of use those like similarities of me watching those episodes of Dragon Ball Z, and then watching whatever Raw and SmackDown, and then having them talking about it. So that was the first period. Then a few years later, well, actually no. Like a year or two later, in both scenarios, I have a random Dragon Ball Z movie that was like my only source to continuously watch Dragon Ball Z. So I basically watched that movie multiple times instead of being able to watch new episodes. And then I had Unforgiven 2003. What's funny is one of the songs that I thought I was like, I want this to be my interest music when I'm a wrestler. What's funny is that song, which I had no idea until literally last night. Because I'm like, oh, let me see if they still make music. Like, I Googled the band because I'm like, let me make sure, like, everything's straight, in case we go down that avenue. And I was like, oh, they dropped the album this year. I was like, dang, they've been making music for a good minute. Turns out they made the theme song for Unforgiven 2003. And I didn't know until literally last night. But, step up to me. I remember the matches, you know what I'm saying? I remember they had the whole storyline with Goldberg when it was in Elimination Chamber, and then like Triple H getting the sledgehammer. I remember the two matches that I watched specifically over and over again. I can't even count how many times that I watched. Was Kane versus Shane McMahon, and then at the end Shane like jumped down and went through the entrance ramp or whatever stage, whatever. I don't even know what you want to call that. And then I remember Shawn Michaels versus Randy Orton, and then I think Ric Flair slipped some brass knuckles, and then like as Shawn Michaels is like picking him up and about to slam him, then he hits him a couple times and then gets the pin. And I remember being as a kid being like, one day I'm gonna get that Randy Orton guy. And I had like a little Woody from Toy Story like pillow thing, and I'll be like, I'm gonna get the brass knuckles and do that to you, and then hitting the Woody pillow with the sweet chin music. But yeah, so paralleling it with Dragon Ball Z, seeing random episodes, seeing episodes of Raw and SmackDown, older brothers talking about it, having a random Dragon Ball Z movie, and we had a couple like basically Blockbuster, but it was a knockoff version. They were closing down, so they're selling a bunch of stuff. So we got like a couple movies, and then we got a couple movies, some games. God damn. We're gonna get the games in a second. And a couple like WWE pay-per-views, and one of them was Unforgiven, and I think the photo was like Unmasked Kane, like this was around that time period. And so then, you know, when my brother stopped watching Dragon Ball Z, or they did other stuff when I was around, and same thing with wrestling. At that point, I only had that movie, which I don't even know what happened to that. And then I only had that WWE pay-per-view, which it probably was in a position. It was probably like in a living room, and the living room got redone many times in different like entertainment like where your TV stands and shit is. That was probably like, oh hey, let's get rid of this. So if it's not somewhere hidden down in the basement, in the back room, blah blah blah, it was long gone. But I don't recall what happened to the Dragon Ball Z shit. So then the next few years, like the only thing that was really Dragon Ball Z or WWE was the games. So I remember specifically it was Raw 2, and I remember playing that on the original Xbox. And I remember you can like get songs from your that's saved on your Xbox. And then I had my character's name was Fireman. That was my created wrestler's name, and I had him go out to Lil Wayne's Fireman. And oh shit, I could try to use the Wayback Machine. There's a version of that song that I was gonna use, and then I think that person either got it, whether it's copyright or just deleted it. It's not there anymore. So from like 2004 to like 2010 was basically wrestling video games and Dragon Ball Z video games. Like they kind of had the same story. This is why I had to talk about the internet in the beginning, because how I came back to them eventually. Now obviously it took a longer time with Dragon Ball Z than it did with wrestling, but so 2010 was when I started getting a little more access to internet. 2011 was really the year that it's like, okay, maybe not every day, but I'm not gone for months. Maybe right around every other day that I could get access to internet. And then 2012 was really access to internet. So I remember specifically in 2012, everyone returned. Brock Lesnar returned, and you know, we already was hearing, you know, The Rock return, and then like he was returning again. So Brock Lesnar, The Rock, and then Chris Jericho. So I think the post was Chris Jericho. So I was like, okay. That was so 2012, and Christian. I remember watching live when Chris Jericho returned. That's all I know. Um, Cause I remember watching live and then being like, oh, hey, he's about to, okay, Chris Jericho's coming out, and then he came back and then he just didn't say anything ever. And then he was talking about this is the end of the world as you know it. So that's what I just remember specifically. And then him going into his best in the world against CM Punk. And this actually, wrestling was the way that I started taking Machine Gun Kelly serious. Because at first I'm like, oh, Wild Boy, it's a little turn up rap song. It's cool. It's better than the other ones. You can see that this guy actually, is a decent rapper. And then I was like, hold on, he's actually doing something with Invincible, which was the theme for WrestleMania. And so that's when I started listening to him, and I was like, oh, he got some other stuff. Okay, cool. And that's a whole different story. But so when I actually got access to internet, that's the reason I was able to watch certain things. Because I can't just be like, what channel does... I didn't know what Raw and even though SmackDown versus Raw, I should have known with the video game, but I didn't know that as a kid that's what I should be looking at. So I'm like, I don't know what to search in my TV provider. I don't know what channel to go to. I don't remember if it was as specific as I'm like, if you Googled how to watch wrestling, then obviously WWE will pop up, and then probably AEW, and then other shows underneath will pop up, and they'll tell you. But I don't know if it was hey, if I type in wrestling, if it will just instantly pop up. So when I get internet, I actually can look at what's going on. Okay, all right, oh, that's Raw. Okay, let me see. Okay, Raw, and then yeah. So that's when I was able to actually do it. And also I didn't know if we only had basic cable. I didn't know if it was basic cable or not, so I didn't want to take the chance. Only thing I knew was they were right next to each other. It was 62, 63, and 64. Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network. That's all I knew. So I was watching for a couple years. The main years that I watched every week, and I didn't get any pay-per-views. Like I said, didn't really have money to be spending on WWE pay-per-views. But I watched Raw and SmackDown live every week, between 2012 to 2016. Every time, without miss. Now, here's a few reasons why I stopped. Now, one was the wrestling thing, because I had to be well, okay, I have to take off some. I can't do all of these things. And so that was one reason. Number two, they made a YouTube channel and they started posting the stuff. So I'm like, okay, I can, get some of these so I can still actually know what's going on. If there was no WWE YouTube, I'd probably be like, oh, I don't want to, miss what's going on. If something happens, I want to know about it. But with the YouTube, I could be like, okay, all right, I'm interested in that. Don't really care for that. Don't care for that. I can pick and choose. So that was one thing. Number two. Now, if we're talking about, I have a Mount Rushmore, and in the top 5, I can debate here and there who I'll put in my top, who will be my fifth spot. But my 4 overall, and I'm just gonna say it in order of me knowing them, was Shawn Michaels, The Rock, CM Punk, Dolph Ziggler. And so, I mean, granted, I probably knew Dolph Ziggler through Spirit Squad, but like, come on, bro. If there was no internet, would you even have remembered, like, been like, oh, that's that guy from Spirit Squad? Come on, bro. No. But so I another reason, CM Punk left, and this is not a thing of like, I'm someone who's not gonna be completely biased. So if someone's like, oh, CM Punk is like this backstage, I could be like, okay, this person tells me, I don't really believe it. Okay, I could, like, I can see it. I talked about Machine Gun Kelly. I can see certain people liking him and certain people not liking him. Like, if I ever get to a certain level, I don't ever want anyone to look at me and be like, I'll defend them to my last breath, even though they're wrong. Me, I'm about, hey, this person was wrong here. Oh, unless it's something crazy like, oh, here's an allegation, then I'm like, let me actually see what was investigated about what's going on. But something of, this person's a dickhead. Okay, if someone said that about CM Punk, I can see it. If someone said he's a nice guy, I can see it. But so if it was like some things backstage, okay, and you already know what happened down that pathway, so that was just another reason. Who was the other person I said in my top 4? Dolph Ziggler. Listen, what I don't really watch sports, so I can't really give anything to compare with that, but Marvel or Harry Potter or Spider-Man or like those Star Wars, those big things, there was never once a moment where I like, whoa, yeah, let's go, da da da. Now you might see me on a gaming channel like, let's go, okay, like, that's mostly for entertainment purposes. If I was playing the game, I'm like, yes sir, all me, and then that'll be it. Like, I wouldn't really say anything. When Dolph Ziggler cashed in his Money in the Bank contract, I jumped out my seat and was like, let's go, so much that like I had to what was it called? I had to figure out which one was worse, ignoring my mom calling me or waiting for a commercial break and then her being like, you gotta stop making those noises. I'm a quiet kid, first and foremost, even to this day. Like I said, like, there's problems in my reaction channel, specifically when I was doing Game of Thrones reactions. Oh, you kept this part out. I'm trying to watch the story and enjoy it. Like, this is mainly exposition. Of course, I'm not going to put that in there if I'm not saying anything in the reaction. And then when we get to like a over the top moment, I'm like, oh shit, like, I'm not going to like that's not who I am. That's very drastic from who I am. I'm not going to portray that on the camera just to get some views. Nah. So that's a whole story, but I was just trying to give an example. I'm not like trying to go down the whole pipeline explaining that. But yeah, like, bro, still to this day, stop making those noises, bro. I made noise once. But yeah, he cashed in his Money in the Bank contract. I was happy. I jumped out my, I jumped out my seat. I was based where I am right now is basically where I was sitting. It's right here. Had the TV over here. And I jumped out my seat, man. And so that was 2013. Day after the Raw after WrestleMania, man. That was a fire show, man. So that was another thing. CM Punk left in 2014. And then I liked Dolph Ziggler. And then he got a concussion. After that, it was say goodbye. Kept burying him. He had his last moment, his last opportunity. He had three last opportunities and they didn't pull the trigger. I mean, you could kind of say 4. There's like 2 Royal. I just spit all over the place. There's like 2 Royal Rumbles in a row. I think it was 15 and 14, where Batista won and Roman Reigns won. The crowd was behind, like, there was behind Dolph Ziggler, Dean Ambrose, and of course Daniel Bryan. I'm not really a big Daniel Bryan fan, but you know, that was another thing. I acknowledged that for a good moment they were screwing over Daniel Bryan. And so that was one of the moments where, okay, you can kind of, like, if you want to Rumble, that could be a moment. It wasn't really set up for him to win a Rumble, but the fans were behind it, and especially when they're like, okay, seems like we're getting either Batista or Roman Reigns. But then these are the moments that was like his last chance for real though. When there was 2 times where he was the sole survivor, which was I think 2012 and I know 2014. One, he was going against Orton. Like Orton, I think him and Orton was the last 2 people. He hit Orton with a super kick to win. And then the one where they was going against the Authority. So that was 2 moments where, well, the first one you can't really count that because he was starting to get that push. That second Soul Survivor was one where he could have done it. It should have been me. That could have been a moment for him to. Granted, you don't really want to take away from Kofi. At that time, I was not watching. Like when he was starting to say it should have been me, like I already was not watching. I legitimately only know about that because it's been memed. Anytime, like you'll see videos, someone in the corner, and then like a female wrestler would go, and then like and then it'll slow motion with the cheeks just hitting. You know what I'm saying? Then they'll just the replies will be Dolph Ziggler. It should have been me. So at that moment, I wasn't really watching. I wouldn't have heard about that if it wasn't memed. But and then the other moment, which was this is where you can mark where I really like stopped paying attention, was him versus The Miz for the Intercontinental Championship versus his career. And that was like the last moment. And I don't even think his title reign was that long. Like at that moment, this was just, a reason for me to be like, okay. But, it's not just because certain wrestlers aren't there, blah, blah, blah. It was just at the time, I'm like, okay. There's no one for me to really like root for. CM Punk's been gone for a couple years. They're burying the shit out of Dolph Ziggler. Shield is, Shield's breaking up. And this is how it was. The fans wanted Dean Ambrose. The company wanted Roman Reigns. I wanted Seth Rollins. Pause. And so I'm like, well, there's going to be nothing for, even though, Seth Rollins was eventually able to, do his thing. At the time, it was just like, there's nothing really for me to look forward to. They're just going to keep burying Dolph Ziggler. CM Punk is gone. And, the only thing I could really say, okay, cool, is, women's wrestling is actually watchable. There's actually some people who I'm like, okay, that's cool. Hey, man. Like, I like the little Iron Survivor joint that they just had at Deadline. I'm be honest. Besides the Trick Williams comeback, I was kind of rocking with the women's Iron Survivor better. I'm be honest. Even though I like both matches. But so those were things. CM Punk leaving, Dolph Ziggler getting buried. There was and then it was clear that the one that they weren't choosing at the time was not going to be Seth Rollins from Shield, and I'm like, okay, who do I even really look forward for? If they push someone, it's going to be Daniel Bryan. I don't really care for Daniel Bryan. I acknowledge his talent, but he's just not interesting to me. And it's not even he's just not interesting. He has what I like to call the Batman effect, or the Daryl Dixon effect, where the fans will hype someone so much where it's just like people are like, Batman will beat this person. Bruh, I like Spider-Man. Spider-Man is not beating Superman, bro. Like, I don't like Superman, but Spider-Man is getting absolutely obliterated by Superman. Spider-Man's my favorite hero. So people will do that with certain characters and or wrestler, whatever it may be, whatever they're watching. This person is my favorite, so they can listen. Darth Vader is another one of my favorite characters. There's people within that universe who will beat him. Maybe not destroy him, but they'll beat him. So with Daniel Bryan, it was just like, oh, he's the best, and like, he's good. Like, I like him. I haven't really seen much of his work, and like, you gotta have a good pause. You gotta have like the full package for me. You gotta have certain look or gimmick. Like, for instance, I saw like someone who didn't particularly have a good like look for me as in wrestling, but I was like, oh, that's actually a fire gimmick. Oh, it was getting me thinking of like, okay, they can do this idea. It's like, okay, that'll be fire. The ring work, how they are on the mic, it's a combination of all these things. Daniel Bryan was good in the ring, good ring work. I wasn't particularly that much of a fan with him on the mic. He didn't really do anything that stood out for me. At the point where everyone was rocking with him, I didn't like his look. I don't like the whole big ass beard and like and then his hair, messy ass hair. I didn't really like that. He has a better look in AEW, and then maybe they allow him to work on the mic. I haven't seen, what I'm saying, AEW that much besides a couple clips. So there was not really much to look for. So 2016 was kind of the year where I stopped really like watching weekly. And then basically 2017, 2018 is kind of when I stopped watching basically all together. And then 2019 was basically I'm just strictly on YouTube. And then, yeah, like if something pops up, I'll click on that clip, but I'll just like not click to see, but like scroll to see whatever they had on their SmackDown or Raw and just keep it pushing. Didn't really pay attention to NXT at the time. And so, why is that? I graduated class of 2016. That's when I stopped watching weekly. So, I had to, of course, work. And I'm not a morning person. I understand it's better to have a morning job because you do night jobs, bro. Your whole morning's going like everything is basically leading up to that night shift, and that's tough. So that's the only reason why I ever switched to morning shifts later on during me working. But it was just, I was never at home when I graduated to be able to watch. I'm not going to be like, I can't work these days to watch wrestling. I'm a person that I gotta be about business. Like, so I'm not gonna be like, oh hey, I want to play this video game, blah blah blah. Now, if it's something once a year, like let's say I was able to have money to spend and this, that, and the third, and it was WrestleMania. Okay, I'll request that WrestleMania off. But I'm not gonna say I can't work Mondays and Fridays, but at the time it was Thursday and it was Friday, then it went to Thursday, and then I think it's went back to Friday. Like I don't even remember what it was, but um I'm not gonna say I can't work those days to watch wrestling. So it was mainly because I just didn't have the time, and also those things that I spoke about allowed me to be like, you know, I can feel comfortable about not watching Raw and SmackDown. And then another thing which I noticed when I started watching again was they spammed ads, bro. They spammed ads, not ads, commercials. I ain't never seen anything spam commercials like this much. I'd rather you do this. I'd rather you do like 4 commercial breaks, but they're long as shit, dude. Or I was streaming at the time, so I wasn't able to watch all of it. But I noticed anytime like I was able to watch AEW, and we gonna get to like starting to try to watch certain things again, because it's all gonna loop back around. But I noticed they have the commercials as playing the commercial, but they also got on the side screen the match playing. So if like it's like a thing where like you are not missing the action, you're just, it's not full view. I mean if you're watching on a computer, I guess you could zoom in and like move your computer around, but you're not getting the sound. You're still getting the commercial. You're still getting that, you know, that payment for people, you know, putting up their commercials and shit like that. But that was another thing. They spammed ads, so I was like, well, okay, cool. So that was another thing. Oh, well, you could just get the WWE network. I don't know how it was in general, because now it's not the WWE network anymore. I don't know how it was when it was just the WWE network. But at that time, when they launched that, I didn't have access to Netflix. Like I said, MCU, or I said Marvel, but MCU. I didn't start watching that until around Civil War. Well, specifically because Spider-Man went into the MCU, but even if some of those characters I know because of Spider-Man, so I would want to watch their films before I even knew that there was this whole cinematic universe. But there was not a Disney Plus. There was some of them were on Netflix, some of them weren't. Basically, Netflix was the first like streaming service. So if I didn't even have Netflix at the time, there was no WWE network. So I finally get Netflix, and then I think I don't get another streaming service until, well, I had Amazon Prime, but they weren't really like, it wasn't really Prime Video to it is now, where they got The Boys, they got Invincible, they got all these other things. Now they're about to have Fallout. Gaming channel description down below. I'm streaming this. I'm about to do that stream right after. And so, yeah, like I said, I'm going to talk about this for a little bit. Damn near 40 minutes in. And so, I just had to just, you know, let it go. And then there's another thing. I'm not really going to talk about it because I hate when people like bring this topic up and they use it as an excuse. And you know, I'm gonna just say it. Basically, when I was like, oh, I can't really do the wrestling thing, I was still thinking I'm gonna be a wrestler one day. But my idea was, I'm gonna go and do this. I'm gonna go and do this music and blah 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 stuff, and then not even on some Ronda Rousey shit, not even on some Logan Paul shit, where like I'm gonna do this Hollywood career, and then I'm gonna go into wrestling being that guy, and I'm not gonna be a part timer. I'm gonna be there for real. Like I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna. I don't know if I would have done house shows, but any televised event that they'll let me on, I was gonna do, and I was gonna like actually try to pursue the wrestling thing. And then, one of the reasons why like I'm like, okay, I gotta do it like that is because I didn't really think about it. I'm not even gonna bring that up, but just know that like it's a topic that I hate when people like bring this up as an excuse of why they're not. Just all right, just look at me and think about if you've seen someone who looks like me, what type of excuses they'll make. And this is before Kofi Mania, so you can't really say that. And then when you talk about the biggest people to do it, you got The Rock who only claims his Samoan side. So we'll just leave it at that. That was just, partial reasons. It wasn't, oh, hey, strictly this. I just had to state it because it was one of the smaller things. I just hate when people use that as an excuse. That's why I didn't even want to say it. So now it's 2016. I'm working this, that, and the third. And then it was one more other thing. Oh, so then I move out. And when I move out, we're like, what are we? No one really watches TV like that. So why are me or my roommates gonna pay for cable? So I'm gone for 2 years, and then I get in I'm about to get a place by myself, and then 2 months before I get in an accident. So I'm like, let me pay and get another car, and then like let me get my money right, cause I kind of left prematurely. So I'm like, let me get my money right, and then that's a whole story. Go check out the video on my channel why I was gone. I was talking about it more there, and so. But when I came back to the parents' house to like, save the money up, right here where my TV used to be and where the cord for cable can actually reach to, there's a bookshelf right here. And there was no need for them to pay for an extra cable box in my room. I wasn't really going to watch TV like that. So even if I want to continue to watch, even if I could, if I could be able to watch every Raw or SmackDown live, like without work, it was just no cable. Basically, the only things that I was watching was wrestling and The Walking Dead. And at this time, The Walking Dead's kind of going downhill a little bit. And then wrestling in my eyes was going downhill at that moment. I'm like, what do I need it for? And so, you already know what happened. So first CM Punk returned in AEW. Now, that wasn't enough for me to be like, let me go watch AEW. But it was enough for me to be, curious. But we already know we had a whole little situation there. And so, before we get him at Survivor Series, we get Dolph Ziggler up out of the way. That's tough. So I'm like, oh, maybe he could go back to AEW. And then it's just like, bro, we're losing Dolph Ziggler in WWE. And then we lose CM Punk in AEW, like, I think within the same couple months. I don't remember. But then, we get the end of Survivor Series. Now, Survivor Series, listen, everyone was, like, speculating him returning. Didn't happen. That was another moment I almost jumped out my seat, man. Now, granted, CM Punk, I like you. See, even CM Punk, someone who was in my top 4, his little look towards the end of his, like, his run in WWE in 2014 when he looked, the little beard coming down this way and then his hair all... I didn't like that look. So it's not even a thing of Daniel Bryan, blah, blah, blah. I like CM Punk in the ring. I don't know how he did in AEW. I don't know if he like looked old and sloppy. I like his in ring work. It wasn't the crazy, like he's not doing like super crazy things, but like, you know, good enough in the ring. And good on the mic. And you know, he had decent look, but it was around that time where the look just wasn't there, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not really rocking with it. And so he returned, and everyone's already like, I hear everyone, oh, Bloodline storyline's real good. So I'm like, okay, maybe. And so, you know, I just started watching again. So I'm like, okay, certain things just had to finesse me, and certain things fell into place. I had Hulu. I got rid of that. In like, okay, let me think. Okay, if y'all seen my Fear the Walking Dead reactions, Alicia, she had a show that dropped on there. Basically, the first day that first episode released, 2 weeks before then, my Hulu was gone. Like, I got rid of it. Because I remember being like, damn, your shit would premiere like after my shit ends. And so I got rid of that. But then, you know, I guess Hulu and Disney are merging, and I was like, oh, let me see if I could find out how to blah blah. And then it was like, oh, an extra like $2 or something to merge them. No. I was paying for no ads on Disney. I don't even know when y'all did that. So I guess y'all just upcharged me and then didn't say anything, but whatever. So, and then $2 more would have been like to merge them, but with ads, and then $2 more from that would have been to merge them. No, merge them with ads, and then $2 more from that would have been to merge them without ads. And so I was like, okay, it's just a couple more dollars, and I get everything with Hulu. Okay, let me get that. And then I was like, okay, because at first I'm like, oh, Peacock, and I was like, oh, Peacock has the pay-per-views, and it has basically, that's where the WWE network is. But then the shit was like Survivor Series, but it's stuff from basically, so Thanksgiving basically, and then you're showing the Raw from like Halloween. Bro, I need my shit then. Let's say someone returns. It's like if Empire Strikes Back came out nowadays, and you can't watch, let's say it came out January 1st, and you can't watch Empire Strikes Back until like February. With the internet, bro, you're already gonna know Darth Vader is his father like within the next couple days when the movie releases. So I'm gonna need my shit now. So then Peacock was like, oh, 20 for 1 year. Oh, hey, some streaming services almost want you to pay 20 for a month. So that's a good deal for me. Fuck it. So that worked out, and I get the pay-per-views, cool, and I get some other things on Peacock that I wanted to check out, but didn't have the streaming service. I was like, all right, cool. So I get the pay-per-views on there. I'm like, okay, then I could get the shows on Hulu. Oh no, you get it the day after, and you know they might cut out some stuff. Listen, like that one, the Usos versus New Day, I need it in its entirety, so I need to watch it live. So I'm like, okay, maybe there's some, how can I find this? Go to the USA Network, boom. So it says, hey, what's your provider? What's your cable provider? We still got cable, I think in my brother's room, and in the living room, and then in my parents' room. So I'm like, okay, this is our provider. Then it's like, oh, this is, it pulls up account thing, and I'm like, all right, cool, boom. I'm able to watch Raw. I'm able to watch Raw live. I didn't know that you're able to watch TV live on your computer. Cool, like using internet. I'm like, all right, cool. So then I tried to do the same thing with SmackDown. Fox was like, nah. Random person's information. Who is this? Okay, let me just say yes. Like, we're about to go live. Like, bro, CM Punk is about to Randy Orton's about to return. Okay, good. And then it says this is not provided with blah blah blah. I'm like, all right, bro. So I had to just take the L for that. CM Punk return last week. I said, listen, y'all gonna have to get up out the living room between 8 to 10. Simple. Find something to do. And so, we also have one in the kitchen, because I realized at the end of the day, I was like, damn, I could have watched it live in the kitchen, and I had to kick them out, because I would have been eating regardless. And so that's how I got finessed with SmackDown. So SmackDown, if something happens live, I'm just not going to be able to see it. I'm going to have to wait till Hulu on the next day. And y'all finessed yourself. Because listen, the network that AEW's on, I'm like, let me see if I can watch AEW live. It lets me. Every network, not every network, but most networks, they're like, boom, here's your information. Okay, boom, you're instantly watching it. But Fox just decided, no, here's random information. If you're just like, forget it, like, I'm not the one who puts in the stuff, bro. You just automatically knew the stuff, and then I guess you just know because the internet and the cable are together, so I guess you just already picked up that information. But Fox was like, nah, we ain't going for that. And this is not something where it's just, hey, here's this person's email, blah, blah, blah. Nah, it was already implemented into the thing, but Fox just did not want to cooperate. But a couple things I noticed when I came back. Listen, the wrestling's pretty good, but like, bro, I'm here for the stories. They'll have like maybe one or two people cut promos, and then like a few like backstage promo segments that are like less than 30 seconds and just matches. And I'm like, I don't know anything about these wrestlers. I need people cutting promos on each other. Start saying I'll beat your ass at the Royal Rumble. Like, bro, come on, dude. Granted, y'all just came off a pay-per-view, but still. But yeah, so let's see, Tuesday. Okay, so I have sit down. So next chilling session, we'll have SmackDown, whatever AEW show is on Friday. We'll have Raw. And yeah, those will be the things that we could talk about, next chilling session. I'll probably end every single like chilling session with, just talking some wrestling. Like talking about what happened with in certain things, the things I did like, things that I liked and things that I didn't like. Matter of fact, I had a notebook there that I would like, I don't know if I'm gonna do anything with that. I could write my notes down in there. But yeah, we just had to get a little backstory, man. I don't know if I'm gonna post this on the channel, but if I do, thumbs up, subscribe. Also, Rumble. Click the link. I'll click the, put the link to the full stream. Go check it out, because that's where I'm gonna be on when I'm talking about it.